My brother's girlfriend kept pushing me to quit my job and become a housewife like her. When I told her to back off, my stepmother got involved and started leaving hostile voicemails. I went no contact and they're still trying to control my life through my friends. I am Maya, 24F, and I work as a software engineer at a tech startup. I have been working there for 2 years now and I really love what I do. I went to college for computer science and I always dreamed of building applications that people actually use. My salary is decent and I can afford my own apartment and pay all my bills without asking anyone for help. My brother Derek, 29M, has been dating his girlfriend Priya, 26F, for about 3 years now. She used to work as a marketing coordinator at some company but she quit her job last year when Derek got promoted to senior manager at his accounting firm. She now stays home and takes care of their apartment. They are not married yet but they live together and Derek pays for everything. She spends her days cooking elaborate meals, organizing their home, and doing crafts. She seems happy with this arrangement and Derek likes having someone take care of the household stuff while he focuses on his career. The problem started about 6 months ago when Priya began making comments about my lifestyle. At first it was small things. She would ask me when I was planning to settle down and find a serious boyfriend. I told her I was not interested in dating anyone right now because I wanted to focus on my career. I had just gotten a promotion at work and I was leading a new project that required a lot of my time and energy. Priya did not seem satisfied with my answer. She started bringing up how fulfilled she felt taking care of Derek and their home. She would talk about how peaceful her days were now that she did not have to deal with workplace stress and demanding bosses. She kept saying that women were naturally better at nurturing and creating a warm home environment. I usually just nodded and changed the subject because I did not want to argue with her. Then she started getting more direct. About 4 months ago, we were all having dinner at Derek's place and Priya asked me if I had ever considered that my career might be preventing me from finding true happiness. She said that she used to be stressed and unhappy when she was working but now she had found her purpose in life. She suggested that maybe I should try dating someone who could support me financially so I could experience what she was talking about. I told her that I was already happy with my life and my job gave me a sense of purpose. I explained that I enjoyed solving complex problems and working with my team to create something new. She laughed and said that I was just trying to convince myself because I had never experienced what it was like to be truly taken care of by a man. Derek did not say much during these conversations. He would sometimes nod when Priya was talking but he never really took sides. I could tell he was uncomfortable when these topics came up but he never told his girlfriend to stop bringing them up. The situation got worse 2 months ago when Priya started introducing me to Derek's coworkers and friends. She would always mention that I was single and looking for someone serious. She told them I was ready to settle down and start a family. I had to correct her multiple times and explain that I was not actively looking for a relationship. This made social gatherings really awkward because these men would approach me expecting someone who wanted to get married soon. One evening at a barbecue at Derek's place, Priya introduced me to Marcus, 31M, who works with Derek. She had clearly told him that I was interested in finding a husband because he immediately started talking about his stable job and how he was looking for a wife who wanted to focus on family instead of career. When I told him I was focused on my career right now, he seemed confused and said that Priya had told him I was ready to give up work for the right person. I pulled Priya aside and asked her to stop telling people things about me that were not true. She said she was just trying to help me because she could see that I was missing out on what really mattered in life. She said that career success was temporary but having a family and being supported by a loving husband was forever. 3 weeks ago, things escalated when Priya started criticizing my apartment when she came to visit. She said it looked too much like a bachelor pad and that I should make it more welcoming for potential partners. She suggested I get rid of my gaming setup in the living room and replace it with more feminine decorations. She also said my kitchen was too basic and that I should learn to cook more elaborate meals if I ever wanted to attract a serious partner. I told her that I liked my apartment the way it was and that I was not looking to attract anyone. She rolled her eyes and said I was being stubborn and that I would regret wasting my best years on a career that would not love me back. Last week was the final straw. Priya called me and said she had met the perfect man for me at Derek's company party. His name was James, 28M, and he was looking for a wife who wanted to be a homemaker. She had already told him about me and given him my phone number. She said he was planning to call me to ask me out. I was really upset because she had shared my personal information without asking me. I told her that she had crossed a line and that she needed to stop interfering in my personal life. She said she was just looking out for me because she cared about my future happiness. Then she said something that really bothered me. She told me that I was being selfish by choosing career over family and that I was going against my natural purpose as a woman. She said that God had made women to be nurturers and caregivers and that I was fighting against my own nature. She also said that my parents must be disappointed that I was not giving them grandchildren and that I would end up alone and regretful when I got older. I told her that my choices were none of her business and that she needed to respect my decisions. She got defensive and said that someone had to tell me the truth because Derek was too nice to say anything. She claimed that he had told her he was worried about me wasting my life on meaningless work. When I asked Derek about this later, he said that Priya had misunderstood something he said. He explained that he had mentioned once that he hoped I would find happiness in whatever path I chose, and somehow she had interpreted that as him being worried about my career choices. He apologized for not speaking up sooner but said he did not want to cause problems between me and Priya. The situation got even more complicated when James actually called me. He had clearly been told that I was eager to quit my job and become a housewife. He talked about his financial stability and how he could support a family on his salary alone. When I explained that I was not interested in giving up my career, he seemed annoyed and said that Priya had wasted his time. I decided I needed to have a serious conversation with both Derek and Priya. I went to their apartment last Saturday and told them that Priya's behavior was affecting my relationship with my brother and that it needed to stop. I explained that I was happy with my life choices and that I did not need anyone to find me a husband or tell me how to live. Priya immediately got defensive and said that I was overreacting. She insisted that she was just trying to help me avoid making a huge mistake. She said that women who prioritized career over family often ended up lonely and bitter, and she was trying to save me from that fate. I told her that even if that were true, it would be my choice to make and my consequences to face. I said that she needed to stop commenting on my lifestyle and stop trying to set me up with men without my permission. Derek finally spoke up and said that maybe Priya should back off a little. But then Priya turned to him and said that he had agreed with her that I needed guidance. She claimed that he had said I was too focused on work to see the bigger picture. Derek looked uncomfortable and said that he had never said I needed guidance. He said he had only mentioned that he wanted me to be happy, and Priya had taken that to mean something completely different. This led to an argument between Derek and Priya, with her accusing him of not supporting her efforts to help his sister. She said that she had been putting herself out there to find me a good husband and that both of us were being ungrateful. I left their apartment feeling frustrated and confused. Derek texted me later that night to apologize for not handling the situation better. He said he would talk to Priya about respecting my boundaries. But 2 days later, Priya called me again. She said that she had been thinking about our conversation and that she still believed I was making a mistake. She told me that she had spoken to some older women at her church and they had all agreed that career-focused women often struggled to find good husbands as they got older. She then said something that really crossed the line. She told me that she had heard that my company was planning layoffs and that I should use this as an opportunity to reevaluate my priorities. She suggested that instead of stressing about job security, I should focus on finding a man who could provide stability. I asked her where she had heard about layoffs in my company. She said that Derek had mentioned it, but when I called Derek, he said he had no idea what she was talking about. He had never heard anything about layoffs in my workplace. I realized that Priya had made up the story about layoffs to try to scare me into reconsidering my career. This made me question everything else she had been telling me about what Derek supposedly said or thought about my choices. Now I am wondering if I should continue having a relationship with my brother while he is with someone who clearly does not respect my life choices and is willing to lie to manipulate me. Derek says he loves me and supports my decisions, but he has not been able to stop his girlfriend from interfering in my life. I am also worried about how this might affect family gatherings and holidays. Priya is likely to be around for most family events, and I do not want to deal with constant comments about my lifestyle choices. But I also do not want to lose my relationship with my brother, who has been important to me my whole life. So am I wrong for wanting my brother's girlfriend to stop pushing me to become a housewife and quit my job? Should I just ignore her comments and try to maintain peace in the family? Update 1: A lot has happened since my original post and I wanted to update everyone who gave me advice. Thank you to everyone who told me that Priya's behavior was not normal and that I was right to be concerned. I decided to follow the advice about having a clear conversation with Derek about boundaries. I called him and asked if we could meet for coffee without Priya. He agreed and we met at a cafe near my office last Tuesday. I told Derek exactly how his girlfriend's behavior was affecting me and our relationship. I explained that her constant comments about my lifestyle were making me uncomfortable and that her attempts to set me up with men without my permission were crossing boundaries. I also mentioned that she had lied about the layoffs in my company, which made me question her honesty about other things. Derek listened and said he understood why I was upset. He apologized again for not speaking up sooner. But then he said something that really surprised me. He told me that Priya had been talking to his mom about me and that his mom had expressed similar concerns about my focus on career over family. I need to give some background here. Derek and I have different mothers. His mom is Linda, 52F, and she has always been traditional. She got married young and stayed home to raise Derek. My mom died when I was 8 and my dad remarried Linda when I was 10. Linda was always nice to me, but we never had the close relationship that she had with Derek. She would make comments sometimes about how I was too independent for my own good, but I thought she was just being protective. Derek told me that Linda had been asking Priya to help guide me toward making better choices. According to Derek, Linda was worried that I was going to end up alone because I was not prioritizing finding a husband. She had apparently asked Priya to introduce me to suitable men and encourage me to be more open to settling down. This information changed everything for me. It meant that Priya's behavior was not just her own idea but something that Linda had encouraged or even requested. It also meant that Derek had known about this arrangement and had not told me. I asked Derek why he had not mentioned that Linda was involved. He said he thought it would just cause more problems and that he hoped Priya would handle things more subtly. He admitted that he should have told Priya to stop when her approach became too aggressive. I was really upset that both of them had been discussing my personal life behind my back and making plans to change my behavior without involving me. I told Derek that I felt betrayed that he had known about Linda's involvement and had not warned me. Derek said he was sorry and that he had not realized how much the situation was bothering me. He promised to talk to both Linda and Priya about backing off. He said he would make it clear that my life choices were my own business and that they needed to respect my boundaries. I told him that I needed some time to think about everything and that I would not be attending any family gatherings for a while. Derek seemed disappointed but said he understood. 3 days after our coffee meeting, Linda called me directly. She said that Derek had told her about our conversation and that she wanted to clarify some things. She said that she had only asked Priya to keep an eye out for good men who might be suitable for me, not to actively interfere in my life. But then Linda started saying things that made it clear she agreed with Priya's overall message. She told me that she was concerned about my future and that she thought I was making a mistake by not prioritizing family. She said that she had seen too many women who focused on career and then struggled to find good husbands when they decided they were ready. Linda also said something that really bothered me. She told me that my dad had mentioned to her that he was worried about me being too independent. She said that both she and my dad thought I might benefit from having someone guide me toward making better choices about relationships. I was shocked because my dad had never said anything to me directly about being concerned about my independence. I called him that evening to ask about what Linda had told me. My dad, 49M, seemed confused when I brought it up. He said that Linda had asked him once if he thought I was happy, and he had said that he hoped I would find whatever made me happy, whether that was career success or family or both. He said he had never expressed concern about me being too independent. This was the second time someone had claimed that a family member had said something they had not actually said. First, Priya had claimed Derek was worried about my career choices, and now Linda was claiming my dad was concerned about my independence. I started to wonder if Linda and Priya were working together to manipulate situations and conversations to support their agenda. It seemed like they were taking innocent comments and twisting them to justify their interference in my life. I decided to be more direct with Linda. I called her back and told her that I did not need anyone to guide my relationship choices and that I wanted both her and Priya to stop discussing my personal life. I explained that their interference was damaging my relationship with Derek and making family situations uncomfortable. Linda did not take this well. She said that I was being ungrateful and that she was only trying to help because she cared about my future. She told me that I was too young to understand what I was giving up by not prioritizing family. She also said that Priya had been generous with her time and effort to help me, and I was being rude by rejecting her assistance. Then Linda said something that made me realize how deep this problem went. She told me that she and Priya had been discussing the possibility of organizing a small gathering where they could introduce me to several single men from their church and Derek's workplace. She said they had thought that if I met multiple options at once, I might be more open to the idea of dating with marriage in mind. I was horrified that they had been planning what sounded like some kind of matchmaking event without even asking me. I told Linda that under no circumstances was she to organize anything like that and that I would not attend if she did. Linda got defensive and said that she was just trying to help me avoid the regret that came with wasting opportunities. She said that younger women often thought they had all the time in the world but then realized too late that they had missed their chance for happiness. I ended the conversation by telling Linda that I needed space from both her and Priya and that I would not be participating in any family events where they would be pressuring me about my lifestyle choices. The next day, Derek called me and said that Linda had told him about our conversation. He seemed frustrated and said that he had not known about the matchmaking event they were planning. He said he would talk to both of them about respecting my boundaries and leaving me alone. But Derek also said something that concerned me. He told me that he was caught in the middle of this situation and that it was putting strain on his relationship with Priya. He said that Priya was upset that I was rejecting her help and that she felt like I was being selfish and stubborn. Derek asked if there was any compromise we could reach that would make everyone happy. He suggested that maybe I could be more polite about declining Priya's suggestions and that maybe I could attend one small gathering just to show that I appreciated their concern. I told Derek that there was no compromise to be made because this was not a situation where both sides had valid points. I explained that my personal life was not something that could be negotiated and that asking me to pretend to appreciate unwanted interference was not reasonable. Derek said he understood but that he was worried about how this conflict was affecting his relationship with Priya and his mom. He said that both of them felt like I was rejecting the family by refusing to consider their advice. I realized that Derek was more concerned about keeping peace with his girlfriend and stepmother than he was about supporting my right to make my own choices. This made me understand that the problem was bigger than just Priya's interference. The problem was that my family members were willing to pressure me to change my life to avoid conflict with people who should not have had a say in my decisions in the first place. I told Derek that I needed more time to figure out how to handle this situation and that I would not be available for family events for the foreseeable future. He said he hoped I would reconsider and find a way to work things out. But the situation got even more complicated 2 days later when I found out that Priya had contacted my workplace. She had called the main number and asked to speak to my supervisor. She told my supervisor that she was concerned about my work-life balance and asked if there were any employee assistance programs that could help me understand the importance of family relationships. My supervisor, Janet, 41F, called me into her office and asked if everything was okay at home. She said that someone claiming to be a family member had called with concerns about my priorities and had suggested that I might benefit from counseling about work-life balance. I was mortified that Priya had contacted my workplace and involved my supervisor in this personal conflict. I explained to Janet that there was a family disagreement about my lifestyle choices and that the person who called did not have the right to contact my employer about personal matters. Janet was understanding and said that she was not concerned about my work performance or priorities. She said that the call had seemed strange to her and that she had not planned to take any action based on it. but she wanted to make sure I was not dealing with any serious personal problems that might affect my work. I assured Janet that my work performance would not be affected and that I would handle the personal situation. But I was furious that Priya had tried to involve my employer in this conflict. When I confronted Derek about Priya calling my workplace, he was shocked. He said he had no idea she had done that and that he would talk to her immediately. He called me back an hour later and said that Priya admitted to making the call but claimed she was just concerned about my well-being. According to Derek, Priya said she thought that maybe someone at work could help me understand that I was focusing too much on career at the expense of personal relationships. She apparently thought that my supervisor might have resources or advice that could help me see things differently. Derek said he had told Priya that contacting my workplace was completely inappropriate and that she needed to apologize to me. But when Priya called me later that day, her apology did not sound sincere. She said she was sorry if I was upset, but that she had been trying to help me from every angle because she could see that I was not going to change my mind based on family conversations alone. This made me realize that Priya saw my refusal to change my lifestyle as a problem that needed to be solved rather than a choice that needed to be respected. She was escalating her efforts because she believed that I was making a mistake that required intervention. I told Derek that Priya's behavior had crossed too many lines and that I could not continue to have a relationship with him while she was actively interfering in my life and contacting my workplace. I said that I needed him to choose between supporting my boundaries and maintaining his relationship with someone who did not respect them. Derek said he would think about what I had said and get back to me. That was 4 days ago and I have not heard from him since. Update 2: I am writing this update because some people asked me to let them know what happened with Derek and whether he ever responded to my ultimatum about choosing between supporting my boundaries and maintaining his relationship with Priya. Derek did eventually call me back, but it took him 2 weeks to do it. When he finally called, he said that he had been thinking about everything and that he had decided he could not ask Priya to completely change her approach because he believed her intentions were good. He said that he had talked to Priya about backing off, and she had agreed to stop contacting my workplace and stop organizing matchmaking events. But he said that he could not ask her to stop expressing her opinions about my lifestyle choices because that would be limiting her freedom of speech. Derek also said that he had talked to Linda, and she had agreed to be more subtle about her concerns. But he said that both Linda and Priya still cared about my future and wanted to be able to express their thoughts when appropriate. I asked Derek what he meant by appropriate, and he said that they should still be able to bring up their concerns during family conversations and give advice when I asked for it. I pointed out that I had never asked for their advice about my career or relationship choices, but Derek said that sometimes people need to hear things they do not want to hear. This conversation made it clear to me that Derek was not going to fully support my boundaries. He was willing to ask Priya and Linda to tone down their behavior, but he was not willing to tell them that my personal choices were off limits for discussion. I told Derek that his solution was not acceptable to me and that I would not be participating in family events or maintaining regular contact while Priya and Linda felt entitled to comment on my lifestyle choices. Derek seemed disappointed and said that he hoped I would reconsider. He said that cutting myself off from family over this issue seemed extreme and that I was hurting myself more than anyone else. I ended the conversation by telling Derek that I was not cutting myself off from family, but that I was protecting myself from people who did not respect my autonomy. I said that the door was always open for a relationship with him if he decided to prioritize my boundaries over other people's opinions. After that conversation, I did not hear from Derek for about 3 weeks. But Linda started calling me every few days. At first, she was trying to convince me to reconsider my position. She said that I was being too sensitive and that people who cared about me should be able to express their concerns. But when I did not respond positively to her arguments, Linda started getting more aggressive. She began leaving voicemails saying that I was being selfish and ungrateful. She said that she had raised me as her own daughter and that I owed her the respect of listening to her advice. I need to clarify something here. Linda did not raise me as her own daughter. She married my dad when I was 10, and while she was always nice to me, she made it clear that Derek was her priority. I lived with them until I was 18, but Linda never took on a motherly role with me. She was more like a friendly step-parent who was polite but distant. Linda's claim that she had raised me and that I owed her something seemed like an attempt to manipulate me into feeling guilty for not accepting her interference. It also made me realize that she might have been building up her role in my life to justify her involvement in my personal decisions. The voicemails from Linda continued for about a week, and they got increasingly hostile. She started saying that I was being influenced by feminist ideas that were poisoning my mind against family values. She said that I was going to end up lonely and bitter and that I would regret not listening to people who cared about me. In one particularly nasty voicemail, Linda said that my real mother would be ashamed of the person I had become and that she was glad she was not alive to see how selfish and ungrateful I had turned out. That voicemail crossed a line that I could not ignore. I had never brought my real mother into this conflict, and Linda had no right to speculate about what she would have thought about my choices. I was also hurt that Linda would use my mother's death as a weapon in this argument. I called Derek and told him about the voicemails Linda had been leaving. I played him the one where she mentioned my mother, and he was quiet for a long time after hearing it. Derek said that Linda had been really upset about the situation and that she felt like I was rejecting the entire family. He said that her comment about my mother was out of line, but he asked me to understand that she was speaking from a place of frustration and concern. I told Derek that I did not care what Linda's motivations were and that bringing my dead mother into the argument was unforgivable. I said that if he could not see why that was wrong, then he was not the person I thought he was. Derek said he would talk to Linda about her voicemails, but he also said that I needed to understand that my decision to cut off contact was affecting everyone in the family. He said that Linda felt rejected and that Priya was upset that her efforts to help me had caused so much conflict. I pointed out that nobody had asked Priya to help me and that the conflict had been caused by her refusal to respect my boundaries, not by my decision to enforce them. But Derek said that the situation had gone beyond the original problem and that everyone needed to find a way to move forward. Derek then suggested that maybe we could have a family meeting where everyone could express their feelings and work toward a resolution. He said that maybe if I heard directly from Linda and Priya about why they were concerned, I might understand their perspective better. I told Derek that I was not interested in a family meeting where I would be outnumbered by people who wanted to change my life choices. I said that there was nothing for Linda and Priya to explain because their motivations did not matter if their actions were harmful to me. Derek said that my refusal to consider any kind of compromise was making the situation worse and that I was being just as stubborn as I accused them of being. He said that families were supposed to work through conflicts together, not cut each other off when things got difficult. I realized during this conversation that Derek was never going to fully understand my position. He saw this conflict as a disagreement between family members who needed to find middle ground, rather than a situation where some people were violating boundaries that should have been respected from the beginning. I told Derek that I was done trying to explain my position and that I would not be changing my mind about maintaining distance from Linda and Priya. I said that he was welcome to have a relationship with me that did not involve them, but that I would not be participating in family gatherings or conversations where my lifestyle choices were up for discussion. Derek said he was disappointed in my decision and that he hoped I would eventually realize that I was hurting myself more than anyone else. He said that Linda and Priya would move on with their lives, but I would be the one missing out on family relationships. After that conversation, I decided to block Linda's phone number because her voicemails were getting increasingly nasty and I did not want to keep hearing her attacks on my character and my mother's memory. 2 weeks later, I found out that Priya had been telling people at Derek's workplace that I was having some kind of breakdown and that I had cut off contact with my family because I could not handle their concern about my life choices. One of Derek's coworkers who knew me from social gatherings reached out to ask if I was okay and if there was anything he could do to help. I was embarrassed that Priya was spreading stories about my mental health at Derek's workplace, but I was also grateful that someone had contacted me directly to ask about the situation. I explained to Derek's coworker that there was no breakdown and that I had simply decided to limit contact with family members who would not respect my boundaries. When I confronted Derek about Priya spreading stories about my mental health, he said that she was just concerned and that she might have exaggerated the situation when people asked her why I was not attending family events anymore. Derek said that Priya was not trying to hurt me, but that she was frustrated and might have said things that did not come out the way she intended. He asked me to consider that Priya was also dealing with stress from this conflict and that she might not be handling it perfectly. I told Derek that I did not care how stressed Priya was and that she had no right to discuss my personal situation with his coworkers or anyone else. I said that spreading stories about someone's mental health was not something that could be excused as poor handling of stress. Derek said he would talk to Priya about not discussing the situation with other people, but he also said that he could not control everything she said when people asked her about family situations. This response made it clear to me that Derek was never going to hold Priya accountable for her behavior in any meaningful way. He was always going to find excuses for her actions and ask me to be understanding of her motivations. I told Derek that I was done with all of them and that I would not be responding to any more attempts at contact from him, Linda, or Priya. I said that they had all shown me that they cared more about their own comfort and opinions than they did about respecting my autonomy. Derek made one more attempt to convince me to reconsider, but I ended the conversation and blocked his number as well. Update 3. This will be my final update because I think the situation has reached its conclusion and there is not much more to say. After I blocked Derek's number, things were quiet for about 6 weeks. I focused on my work and started spending more time with friends and coworkers. I realized that I had been so stressed about the family situation that I had not been fully present in other areas of my life. My project at work was going really well, and my supervisor Janet had started involving me in client meetings and strategic planning sessions. I felt like my career was moving in the right direction and I was glad that I had not let my family's pressure influence my professional decisions. But the peace did not last as long as I had hoped. About 2 months after I blocked Derek's number, my dad called me. He said that Linda had been talking to him about the situation and that he was concerned about how things had escalated. My dad said that he understood I was upset with Linda and Priya, but that cutting off contact with Derek seemed like an extreme response. He said that Derek was my brother and that family relationships should be able to survive disagreements about lifestyle choices. I explained to my dad that this was not just a disagreement about lifestyle choices, but a pattern of behavior where multiple family members had refused to respect my boundaries and had actively interfered in my personal and professional life. I told my dad about Priya calling my workplace and Linda leaving hostile voicemails, including the one where she brought up my mother. My dad was quiet when I mentioned that, and he said he had not known about Linda's comment about my mother. My dad said that Linda's voicemail had been inappropriate and that he would talk to her about it. But he also said that he thought Linda and Priya had been trying to help, even if their methods were wrong. I asked my dad why everyone kept focusing on their intentions instead of the impact of their actions. I pointed out that good intentions did not excuse behavior that was harmful and invasive. My dad said that he thought I was right to be upset, but that completely cutting off contact seemed like it was hurting me more than it was helping. He said that I was missing out on a relationship with Derek and that I might regret the decision later. I told my dad that I had not wanted to cut off contact with Derek, but that Derek had made it clear that he was not willing to prioritize my boundaries over his relationship with Priya and his desire to keep peace with Linda. My dad asked if there was any way I would consider having a conversation with Derek without Linda and Priya being involved. He said that maybe Derek and I could work out our issues directly and find a way to have a relationship that did not involve the other two. I thought about this for a few days and decided that I would be willing to have one conversation with Derek, but only if he could guarantee that Linda and Priya would not be told about it and would not be involved in any way. My dad arranged for Derek to call me, and we had a conversation that lasted about an hour. Derek said that he missed talking to me and that he regretted how things had escalated. He said that he understood why I was upset and that he wished he had handled things differently from the beginning. But when I asked Derek if he was willing to set clear boundaries with Linda and Priya about not discussing my personal life, he said that he thought that would be difficult to enforce. He said that they were both part of his daily life and that it would be hard to completely separate my relationship with him from his relationships with them. Derek also said that he thought I was asking him to choose between me and Priya, which he felt was unfair. He said that he should be able to have relationships with both of us without having to take sides in our conflict. I explained to Derek that I was not asking him to choose between me and Priya in general, but that I was asking him to choose between enabling her interference in my life and having a relationship with me. I said that those were two different things. Derek said that he understood the distinction, but that he did not think he could guarantee that Priya would never bring up her concerns about my lifestyle in the future. He said that she cared about me and that it was natural for people who cared about each other to express their opinions. This conversation made it clear to me that Derek still did not understand the difference between expressing an opinion and repeatedly interfering in someone's personal decisions despite being asked to stop. He also did not seem to understand that my relationship with him should be separate from his girlfriend's opinions about my life. I told Derek that I appreciated him calling, but that I did not think we could have a meaningful relationship while he was unable or unwilling to set boundaries with people who did not respect my autonomy. Derek said he was disappointed and that he hoped I would change my mind eventually. He said that he would always be open to rebuilding our relationship if I decided I wanted to try again. I ended the conversation by telling Derek that the door was open for a relationship with him, but only if he was willing to keep my personal life separate from his discussions with Linda and Priya. I said that until that happened, I needed to maintain my distance for my own well-being. After that conversation, I felt like I had closure on the situation. I had given Derek multiple opportunities to choose my boundaries over other people's comfort, and he had consistently chosen to prioritize keeping peace with Linda and Priya over supporting my right to make my own decisions. 3 weeks after my conversation with Derek, something happened that confirmed I had made the right choice. My friend Sarah, 26F, from college called me and said that someone had contacted her on social media asking questions about me. The person had identified herself as a family member and had asked Sarah if she thought I was happy with my current lifestyle and if I had ever expressed regret about not having a boyfriend. Sarah had not responded to the messages, but she took screenshots and sent them to me. The profile belonged to Linda, and she had apparently found Sarah through my old college photos that were still visible on my social media accounts. I was disturbed that Linda was now contacting my friends to gather information about my personal life and potentially spread her opinions about my choices. This showed me that even after months of me maintaining no contact, she was still actively trying to interfere in my life. I decided not to respond to this development or tell my dad about it. I realized that every time I tried to address Linda's behavior through family members, it just created more opportunities for conflict and manipulation. Instead, I focused on building stronger relationships with people who respected my choices and supported my goals. I started attending professional networking events and joined a hiking group where I met people who shared my interests. At work, I was promoted to senior developer and was given the opportunity to lead a team on a new project. My supervisor Janet mentioned that she was impressed with my focus and dedication, and that she thought I had strong leadership potential. I also started dating someone I met through the hiking group. His name is Alex, 27M, and he works as a graphic designer. He has never questioned my career priorities or suggested that I should change my lifestyle. We have been together for 2 months now and I'm happy with how our relationship is developing. Alex knows about the situation with my family, and he has been supportive of my decision to maintain boundaries. He said that anyone who truly cared about me would want me to be happy with my own choices rather than trying to force me into a life that did not fit my goals. About a month ago, my dad called again and said that Derek and Priya had gotten engaged. He said that Derek had asked him to let me know in case I wanted to reach out and congratulate them. My dad also said that Derek was hoping I might consider attending the wedding if I was invited. I told my dad that I was not interested in attending Derek's wedding if Linda and Priya would be treating it as an opportunity to continue their campaign about my lifestyle choices. I said that I wished Derek happiness, but that I could not participate in family events where my personal decisions would be up for discussion. My dad said he understood, but that he was sad about how the situation had affected our family. He said that holidays and gatherings felt incomplete without me there. I told my dad that I was also sad about missing family events, but that I was not willing to subject myself to ongoing pressure and criticism in order to maintain relationships with people who did not respect my autonomy. My dad said that he hoped things might change over time and that maybe eventually everyone could find a way to move forward. He said that he would always want me to be part of the family if I decided I was ready to try again. I appreciated my dad's position because he was the only family member who had never tried to pressure me to change my choices or suggested that my boundaries were unreasonable. He had always focused on wanting me to be happy rather than wanting me to live up to specific expectations. 2 weeks ago, I received a wedding invitation in the mail. It was addressed to me and Alex, which surprised me because I had not told Derek about my relationship. I realized that someone must have been keeping track of my social media activity or asking mutual acquaintances about my life. The invitation included a handwritten note from Derek saying that he hoped I would consider attending and that he missed having me in his life. He said that Priya wanted to apologize for how things had gotten out of hand and that she hoped we could start fresh. I decided not to respond to the invitation. I realized that attending the wedding would send a message that I was ready to resume family relationships on the same terms that had caused problems before. I also did not trust that Priya's desire to apologize was genuine, given that she had never shown any understanding of why her behavior had been problematic. Last week, my dad called to ask if I had received the invitation and whether I was planning to attend. I told him that I would not be going to the wedding and that I did not think Derek and Priya were ready to have a relationship with me that respected my boundaries. My dad seemed disappointed but said he understood my decision. He said that he would miss having me there but that he respected my need to protect yourself from situations that caused me stress. I asked my dad to let Derek know that I wished him happiness in his marriage but that I would not be attending the wedding or resuming contact unless there were significant changes in how my family members approached our relationships. As I write this update, I am at peace with my decisions. I have a job I love, a relationship that makes me happy, and friendships with people who support my goals and respect my choices. I am not lonely or bitter, despite what Linda predicted would happen to me. I do miss having Derek in my life, and I am sad that our relationship became a casualty of other people's inability to respect boundaries. But I have learned that protecting my autonomy and well-being is more important than maintaining relationships with people who view my life choices as problems that need to be solved. I hope that someday Derek will understand the difference between caring about someone and trying to control their decisions. If that happens, I would be open to rebuilding our relationship. But until then, I am focused on building a life that makes me happy rather than trying to satisfy other people's expectations about what my life should look like. Thank you to everyone who supported me through this situation and helped me understand that I was not wrong to prioritize my own well-being and autonomy. Your advice and encouragement meant more to me than you know. Now let's move to the next story. Story 2. Found out my parents have been supporting my sister's secret family for years while refusing to help with my son's medical bills, leading to his death. Today I confronted them at a family gathering and things got ugly. I never expected to write this post, but what happened in my family has destroyed me completely. It's about how my parents and sister betrayed me in a way that led to my 2-year-old son's death. Growing up, there were 4 of us: my dad, 60M, who works as a senior insurance agent at a big firm, my mom, 58F, who teaches math at the local high school, my older sister Sarah, 35F, and me, 28F. We lived in a nice neighborhood and had what looked like a good life, but there was always one big problem: my parents' extreme favoritism towards Sarah. The favoritism started when I was very young. In elementary school, Sarah got piano lessons, dance classes, and art tutorials. When I asked to join any activities, my parents said we couldn't afford 2 kids in extracurriculars. Sarah got new clothes from the mall while I wore her hand-me-downs. She got the newest iPhone models every year while I used her old phones until they stopped working. When Sarah was 13, she wanted braces. My parents paid $6,000 without any hesitation. A year later, when my dentist said I needed braces too, they said we had to wait because of money problems. I never got them, and now at 28, I still have crooked teeth. For her 16th birthday, Sarah got a brand new Honda Civic. When I turned 16, they told me to work and save up for my own car. I spent 2 years working at McDonald's after school and still only managed to buy a used Toyota that broke down after 6 months. The pattern continued through high school. Sarah was allowed to focus only on studies and fun activities. I had to work part-time jobs to pay for basic things like school supplies and clothes. When college time came, Sarah went to an expensive private university while I had to start at community college. My parents paid all her expenses, including a semester abroad in Paris and a condo near her campus. I worked 2 jobs, one at a coffee shop and another as a campus library assistant, just to afford my textbooks and bus fare to classes. I met my husband James, 30M, during my 3rd year after I transferred to State University. He was studying engineering and working part-time at the campus IT department. We started dating, and for the first time, I felt like someone truly cared about me. James came from a middle-class family too, but his parents had passed away in a car accident when he was in high school. He lived with his aunt through high school and worked hard to put himself through college. We dated for 3 years before getting married. I wanted a simple courthouse wedding because we were saving money for a house down payment. But James insisted I should have a real wedding since it was a once-in-a-lifetime event. We planned a small ceremony at a local church with about 50 guests. Sarah didn't come because she claimed she had an important work meeting. My parents almost skipped it too because Sarah had planned a family vacation that weekend. They changed their plans at the last minute after my mom's sister confronted them about it. 2 years into our marriage, I got pregnant with Tommy. The pregnancy was rough from the start: severe morning sickness, gestational diabetes, and then at 32 weeks, the worst news came. During a routine scan, doctors found that Tommy had a serious heart condition. They explained he would need several surgeries throughout his life, starting right after birth. James and I were devastated but determined to do whatever it took to give our son a healthy life. Tommy's first surgery happened the day after he was born. It cost $150,000, and while insurance covered most of it, we still had to pay $30,000 out of pocket. We used all our savings and took out loans. James started working overtime at his engineering job and took freelance projects on weekends. I was working as a virtual assistant from home while taking care of Tommy. 6 months later, Tommy needed another surgery. We were already struggling with payments for the first surgery, so I went to my parents for help. They had just returned from a 2-week Mediterranean cruise with Sarah. I showed them all our medical bills and explained how we had already sold our car and cut every possible expense. They said they were having financial problems and couldn't help. I believed them because I didn't know the truth then. For the next year and a half, we barely managed. James worked 80-hour weeks until he got so exhausted he fainted at work. I took on more virtual assistant clients and started selling things from our house on eBay. During this time, my parents bought Sarah a new Mercedes for her birthday and went on 3 family vacations with her. They said these were all paid for by Sarah because she had a good job in finance. I later found out this was a lie. Last month, Tommy got much worse suddenly. His heart wasn't functioning properly, and he needed emergency surgery that would cost $50,000. Our insurance had reached its yearly limit, and we had no way to get that much money quickly. I went to my parents again, this time literally on my knees begging them for help. I offered to sign a legal contract, to pay them back double the amount, to give them our house, anything they wanted. They refused again, claiming they had no savings left because of recent medical bills. Tommy died 2 days later because we couldn't afford his surgery. He was only 2 years old. At his funeral, my parents stayed for only 30 minutes because they said they had to help Sarah with something urgent. Yesterday, while cleaning out Tommy's room, I found my dad's old phone under the bed. He had visited 3 weeks ago and must have dropped it. The phone still worked, and when I checked it, I found hundreds of messages between my parents and Sarah. That's how I discovered the truth that destroyed whatever was left of our family. The messages revealed that Sarah had been living a completely different life that none of us knew about. She had been married for 7 years to a man named Mark and had 3 kids with him in Florida. My parents had been supporting them financially all this time, sending them huge amounts of money every month. I spent 5 hours reading through all the messages. Every month, my parents sent Sarah $5,000 for regular expenses. They paid $2,000 per month for each of her 3 kids to attend private school. They covered their family vacations to places like Hawaii and Europe. Last year, they bought them a summer house in the Hamptons for $400,000. My parents even paid for their weekly house cleaning service and lawn maintenance. The most recent messages were about a beach house Sarah wanted to buy. 5 days before they told me they couldn't help save Tommy, my parents sent Sarah $75,000 for the down payment. There were also messages about Christmas presents they had already bought for Sarah's kids, 3 new iPads and a gaming console. Each kid was getting presents worth more than what Tommy's surgery would have cost. Today was our monthly family dinner. Everyone comes to my parents' house on the last Sunday of each month, all my aunts, uncles, and cousins. My mom started this tradition 5 years ago to keep the family close. Usually, around 25 people attend. Sarah never came to these dinners, always making excuses about work commitments. Now I know she was with her secret family in Florida. I took my dad's phone to dinner. After everyone finished eating and moved to the living room for coffee, I connected the phone to the TV using screen mirroring. I showed everyone the messages, the bank transfers, and the photos of Sarah's secret life. I revealed how my parents had sent her $75,000 for a beach house while refusing to help save their dying grandson. My mom started crying and tried to hug me. I moved away from her. My dad sat there staring at the floor. Sarah, who had actually shown up to this dinner for the first time in years, just sat on the couch with a smirk on her face. She told everyone I was being dramatic as usual and should understand that she needed the money more because she had 3 kids to support. I asked her if her kids were more important than Tommy's life. She said I was crazy for making comparisons. My mom tried to explain that Sarah was their first priority because she had always been more fragile emotionally and needed more support. My dad added that they helped Sarah because she wasn't as strong or independent as me. My Aunt Susan asked them how they could let their grandson die while spending thousands on Sarah's beach house. My parents had no answer. Other relatives started asking questions about all the times my parents and Sarah had borrowed money from them claiming emergencies. Sarah got angry and said I had no right to expose her private life. She said her kids would be traumatized if people found out about this situation. I told them they weren't my family anymore. They watched my son die so they could buy Sarah a beach house. I said they were dead to me just like Tommy was dead because of their choices. Sarah started screaming that I was trying to destroy her life out of jealousy. She said I had always been jealous of her because our parents loved her more. I left their house and blocked their numbers. A few relatives followed me out and said they would support me if I wanted to take legal action. Most of my cousins have blocked Sarah and my parents on social media. But some family members are messaging me saying I went too far by exposing Sarah's secret in front of everyone. They say I should have handled it privately. James supports my decision to cut contact with them but thinks I could have found a better way to expose the truth. He's worried about how this will affect our extended family relationships. But I don't care anymore. My son is dead because my parents chose to support Sarah's luxurious lifestyle instead of saving their grandson's life. Update 1: A lot has happened since I exposed Sarah and my parents at the family dinner. More family members have been coming forward with stories about Sarah's manipulation and my parents' lies over the years. Each news story makes me realize how deep their deception went. My Aunt Linda called me 3 days after the dinner. She broke down crying and told me about lending Sarah $30,000 last year. Sarah had claimed her oldest son needed emergency surgery for appendicitis. Linda emptied her retirement savings to help because she didn't want another child to suffer like Tommy. She later found out there was no surgery. Sarah used the money to renovate her beach house kitchen and install a pool. My cousin Emily's story was even worse. Last week, she came to my house and told me something that made me sick to my stomach. Sarah's husband Mark was actually Emily's fiancé 8 years ago. Emily and Mark dated through college and got engaged after graduation. They planned a big wedding, sent out invitations, and Emily even bought her dress. 2 weeks before the wedding, Mark disappeared. He left a note saying he wasn't ready for marriage. Emily had a breakdown and needed therapy for 2 years. Now she knows the truth. Sarah had been secretly dating Mark for months while he was engaged to Emily. Sarah convinced him to leave Emily and move to Florida with her. My parents knew everything. They helped Sarah and Mark pick out their house in Florida. They even attended their small private wedding 3 months after Mark left Emily. All this time, they watched Emily suffer through depression while knowing exactly what Sarah had done. Then 2 more stories came out. Sarah's first husband Tom found me on Facebook. I didn't even know Sarah had been married before Mark. Tom and Sarah got married right after college and had a daughter together. When their daughter was 2, Sarah cleaned out their bank accounts and disappeared. She took $40,000 of their savings and all of Tom's inheritance from his grandmother. Sarah told everyone that Tom was abusive and she had to escape. Tom lost his job, his house, and nearly lost custody of their daughter because of Sarah's lies. He had been searching for Sarah for years to get child support for their daughter, who is now 15. My parents knew where Sarah was the whole time. They paid for lawyers to fight Tom's custody claims and helped Sarah create fake documents showing she was in danger from Tom. Last week, James found something in our safe deposit box that made everything worse. When Tommy was born, my parents opened a trust fund for him, just like they claimed to do for all their grandchildren. They promised to put $1,000 into it every month until he turned 18. The trust should have had over $100,000 in it. We found documents showing they had been transferring all the money to accounts for Sarah's kids instead. James kept digging through our papers and found more evidence of their deception. Every time we applied for financial assistance for Tommy's medical bills, my parents wrote letters to the hospitals saying they couldn't help us because they were retired and living on fixed incomes. But their bank statements show they were making huge transfers to Sarah during this same time. My dad's secretary reached out to me through LinkedIn. She said my dad had been using company money to help Sarah, marking the transfers as business expenses. He falsified documents to show Sarah was a business consultant for his insurance firm. The secretary estimated he had diverted over $200,000 of company funds to Sarah in the past 3 years. My mom's best friend, who works at the same school, told me that my mom had been stealing from the school's fundraising accounts to send money to Sarah. She covered it up by altering the records. The school raised money every year for student medical emergencies. My mom was in charge of this fund and had access to all the accounts. Sarah has been trying to contact me from different phone numbers since I blocked her. Sometimes she threatens to sue me for defamation and invasion of privacy. Other times she calls crying, saying she needs my help because Mark is asking questions about her past. Yesterday she left a voicemail saying she would tell everyone I abused Tommy if I didn't stop people from investigating her finances. My parents sent a letter through their lawyer yesterday. They offered to set up a new trust fund for my future children if I agree not to take legal action against them. They said they would put in $200,000 immediately as a sign of good faith. The letter also included a non-disclosure agreement they wanted me to sign, promising never to discuss Sarah's life or their financial support of her. Several relatives have cut all contact with my parents and Sarah. My dad's golfing friends have stopped inviting him to their weekly games after hearing what happened. My mom had to quit her book club because the other members, mostly parents of her students, didn't want to associate with her anymore. The hardest part is that people keep finding photos of Sarah's family on vacation in expensive places during the time Tommy was sick. Someone found pictures of them at Disney World from the same week we were begging my parents to help pay for Tommy's final surgery. In the photos, Sarah's kids are wearing matching outfits that cost more than what we needed to save my son's life. Update 2: Our lawyer found something that explains a lot about my parents' behavior, especially their extreme favoritism towards Sarah. We discovered Sarah isn't their biological daughter. She was adopted when she was 2 years old. They never told anyone, not even Sarah herself. The adoption papers came up during our lawyer's investigation into the missing trust fund money. My parents adopted Sarah after my mom had 4 miscarriages. They decided to keep the adoption secret because they worried it would affect Sarah's sense of belonging in the family. They didn't even tell our grandparents. They moved to a different city right after the adoption so nobody would question them about the sudden appearance of a 2-year-old. The lawyer also found evidence of my parents helping Sarah commit fraud over the years. When Sarah dropped out of college after 2 years, my parents paid someone $15,000 to create fake transcripts showing she graduated with honors. They got one of my dad's business contacts to write fake job references for her. Every job Sarah claimed to have over the years was fake. She never actually worked anywhere. My parents helped her create a false identity to get loans and credit cards. They used my dad's connections at the insurance company to get fake documentation. Sarah used this fake identity to take out over $300,000 in loans from different banks. My parents made the payments using money they took from my dad's company. When our lawyer told Sarah about the adoption, she completely lost control. She went on Facebook and posted everything. She revealed how my parents helped her hide from her first husband, how they covered up her credit card fraud, and how they helped her steal Emily's fiancé. She even admitted to lying about her first husband being abusive. Sarah posted screenshots of text messages showing how my parents helped her create fake medical emergencies to borrow money from relatives. She had a system. She would pick a relative who was doing well financially, make up a story about one of her kids needing medical treatment, and have my parents confirm her story. They scammed at least 7 different relatives this way. My parents finally broke down and admitted everything to our lawyer. Over the past 10 years, they spent more than $500,000 supporting Sarah and her family. They took out second and third mortgages on their house. They borrowed money from their retirement accounts. My dad even stole from his company's client accounts. When the lawyer asked them why they let Tommy die instead of helping us, their answer made me even angrier. They said they were afraid Sarah would cut them off from their grandchildren if they stopped giving her money. My dad said Sarah had threatened to disappear with the kids if they ever stopped supporting her lifestyle. My mom admitted she knew about Sarah's plan to steal Mark from Emily. She said Sarah had told her she was in love with Mark and would do anything to have him. Instead of stopping Sarah, my mom helped her arrange secret meetings with Mark. She even helped Sarah write the letter that Mark left for Emily. Sarah's first husband Tom is now working with our lawyer. He has proof that my parents helped Sarah fake domestic violence charges against him. They paid a doctor to create false medical records showing injuries. They used these records to help Sarah get restraining orders against Tom. This prevented him from seeing his daughter for years. My dad's company started an internal investigation after finding out about the stolen money. They discovered he had been creating fake insurance policies and keeping the premiums. He wrote policies for people who didn't exist and used the money to support Sarah. The company fired him and is pressing criminal charges. Several of my dad's business partners have cut ties with him. They're worried about being connected to his fraud. My mom had to retire early from teaching after parents complained about having someone involved in fraud teaching their children. The school is also investigating money missing from student activity funds. My parents had to put their house up for sale to pay their legal bills. They're facing possible criminal charges for fraud, embezzlement, and helping create false documents. Sarah is being investigated for identity theft, loan fraud, and filing false police reports about her first husband. Update 3: The situation with my family has changed completely in the past 6 months. My parents had to sell their house and most of their possessions to pay their legal debts. They now live in a small 1-bedroom apartment on the other side of town. My dad's company won their lawsuit against him, and he has to pay back $400,000 he stole from client accounts. He's working as a night security guard now because no insurance company will hire him. Sarah's life fell apart after Mark found out about her first marriage and all her lies. He hired a private investigator who uncovered even more things about her past. Sarah had another child from a relationship before her first marriage. She gave up her parental rights and never told anyone about this child. Mark was disgusted that she had abandoned 2 children before starting a family with him. Mark filed for divorce and got full custody of their 3 kids. The judge agreed that Sarah was an unfit mother because of her history of fraud and abandonment. She's not even allowed unsupervised visits with the children. Mark moved back to his hometown in Texas with the kids. Sarah keeps making new social media accounts to contact him, so he had to get a restraining order. Sarah's first husband Tom won his back child support case. The court ordered Sarah to pay him $150,000 plus interest for the years she disappeared. Since she has no money or job, they're garnishing the small inheritance she got from our grandmother last year. Tom's daughter, who is now 15, refuses to speak to Sarah or my parents after learning how they helped hide her from her father. My cousin Emily filed a civil suit against Sarah for emotional distress over the stolen fiancé incident. Emily's lawyer found old emails proving that Sarah and my parents planned the whole thing months in advance. They deliberately targeted Mark because his family had money. The case was settled out of court last month, but Sarah had to sign over her beach house to Emily as part of the agreement. James got a job offer in Colorado with better pay and full medical coverage. We decided to move for a fresh start. I'm 4 months pregnant, but this time we're keeping it private. Only my Aunt Linda and 2 cousins know about the pregnancy. We've decided to have no contact with my parents or Sarah. Some relatives still try to get me to forgive my parents. They say my parents have lost everything and learned their lesson. My uncle Bob keeps sending me messages about how my parents cry at family gatherings and miss us. But I told him that my son missed out on his whole life because of their choices, so I don't care about their tears. Sarah was arrested last week for trying to open new credit cards using her kids' social security numbers. She's facing criminal charges for identity theft. She called me from jail asking for help with bail money. I blocked the jail's phone number. The only good thing that came from this situation is that other family members have gotten closer. My Aunt Linda moved near us in Colorado to help when the baby comes. My cousins have started a group chat where we talk daily and support each other. We're building a new family without my parents and Sarah. I still miss Tommy every day. His pictures are all over our new house, and we talk about him often. But I'm glad the truth came out about my parents and Sarah. At least they can't hurt anyone else with their lies anymore. The hardest lesson I learned from all this is that sometimes the people who should love you the most are the ones who hurt you the worst. But I'm focusing on the future now and on building a better life with the family members who actually care about us.